Hare Krishna, welcome everyone to our Chaitanya Charitāmrita overview class. We'll begin with our prayers. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamsha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam सहगणा रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सावधूतं परिजना सहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपादान् सहगणा ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिन्धु दीनबन्धु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमोऽस्तुते तप्त काञ्चन गौराङ्गी राधे वृन्दावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। नमो ॐ विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामी नितिनामिने नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे 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 कृष्णा welcome everyone. We are discussing from Chaitanya Charitāmrita Adi Leela. We are on today we will discuss the 12th chapter of the Adi Leela. So this is a continuation of the Chaitanya tree which began in the 9th chapter. Kaviraj Goswami compares Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to the gardener of the Bhakti Lata, Bhakti Kalpa Vriksha, the tree of devotional service. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he is the gardener, he is the Mali, and he is the trunk of this tree also. And he is watering this tree with the water of his desire. Sinchi Ichha Pani. Because Mahaprabhu wants to drown the entire world in this love of God, and for that, he wants each and every living entity, each and every branch of this tree to preach this message to each and every living entity. Bharat bhumite manushya janma hoila jar janma sarthak kari kar para upkar. And with that instruction, Mahaprabhu, he is very eagerly distributing these fruits of love of God, and he is requesting each and every one. So Kaviraj Goswami describes that tree. The first two branches of this tree are Nityanand Prabhu and Advaita Acharya. So in 10th chapter, Kaviraj Goswami describes the various branches of Chaitanya tree, the devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadvip, in Jagannath Puri, and in Varanasi. Then in 11th chapter, Kaviraj Goswami described the various expansions, the devotees of Nityanand Prabhu. So now in this 12th chapter, we'll be discussing the expansions of Advaita Acharya and Gadadhar Pandit. So like every chapter, Kaviraj Goswami is beginning this chapter in a different way. Every chapter he begins with glorification of Lord or the devotees of the Lord. In this chapter, Kaviraj Goswami begins by telling that there are two types of devotees of Advaita Acharya. And he offers obeisances to the real devotees and not to the false devotees. Advaitangrabja bhringam stan sara sara bhrito khilan hitva saran sara bhrito naumi chaitanya jivinan. So Advait Angri Abja Bhringa. So the followers at the lotus feet of Lord Advaita Acharya, they are like the bumblebees. But devotees are always compared to bumblebees, honeybee, because honeybee they are only interested in the essence. They are not interested in any other garbage of the world. In contrast to the house fly, which is only attracted to the garbage, honeybee seeks the essence. So the devotees of the Lord, they are like honeybee. They are sar bhritam. They are the seekers of essence. Parijate anjasa labdhe sarango anya na sevate. Twadangrimulamasadya sakshat kim kim vrinimahi. So after getting parijata, just like a honeybee doesn't go anywhere because there is unlimited nectar available in parijata. Similarly, devotees, they are like honeybees. After getting the lotus feet of the Lord, which is full of nectar, they don't go anywhere else. And Kaviraj Goswami in many places has compared the devotees to honeybee. Krishna Kirtana Gana Nartana Kala Patho Jani Bhrajita Sadbhaktavali Hamsa Chakra Madhupa Shreni Vihara. So Hamsa, Chakra, Madhupa. The devotees are compared to three things here. Three birds. Hamsa, swan, Chakravaka, and honeybee. Because all these are very, very wonderful in their habits. Swans, they only take the milk. They have the capacity to separate milk from water. Swans, they are always attracted to the soft lotus stem. Chakravak, they have another quality that they are only interested in the waters of the rain. They are not interested in any other water. They'll wait, they'll be thirsty, but they'll not take any other water. And similarly, the honeybee also. So Kaviraj Goswami is offering obeisances to the bumblebee-like devotees of Advaita Acharya. And amongst the devotees of Advaita Acharya, there are two types of devotees, Sara and Asara. Sar means the real devotees and Asar means not real, those who are false devotees. So all the followers of Advaita Acharya, they are divided into two types, Sar and Asar. Sar means the real followers and Asar means the false followers. So therefore he is saying Hitva Asaran, rejecting the false followers, Naumi Chaitanya Jivinan. I offer my obeisances to the real followers. So he's offering obeisances to the real followers of Lord Advaita Acharya, who is Mahavishnu himself. And then he continues the second verse, like every chapter, he offers obeisances to Panchatattva. Jaya Jaya Mahaprabhu Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Jaya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Dvaita Dhanya. Offering obeisances to Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, Advaita Acharya. Then third verse is another very beautiful verse. Shri Krishna, Shri Chaitanya Marataro Dvitiya Skandarupinaha Srimad Advaita Chandrasya Shakha Rupan Ganan Namaha. So Shri Chaitanya Amara Taru, the imperishable tree of Lord Shri Chaitanya, Amara Taru, the unlimited tree of Lord Shri Chaitanya, Dvitiya Skandharupina, the second branch of this tree. Who is the first branch? Nityananda Prabhu. So Nityananda Prabhu is the first branch of this tree of Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Advaita Acharya is the second branch. Srimad Advaita Chandrasya. All glories to Sri Advaita Acharya. Shakha Rupan Ganan Namaha. So he offers obeisances to Advaita Acharya and all the followers of Advaita Acharya, who are like the sub-branches. So the main branch means second branch is Advaita Acharya, and the further sub-branches are the various followers of Advaita Acharya. And Kaviraj Goswami offers obeisances to both of them. Shakha Rupan Ganan Namaha. Then in the fourth verse he says, Vrikshera Dvitiya Skandha Acharya Gosai Tarayata Shakahila Tara Lekhanai. So this tree of devotional service, the second branch of this tree is Advaita Gosai, Acharya Gosai. Vrikshera Dvitiya Skandha. And unlimited branches, sub branches are coming from this branch. Tara Lekha Nai. Nobody can count. Kaviraj Goswami is telling again and again about the devotees. There are unlimited devotees. He said the same thing about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also, Nityanand Prabhu also, and Advaita Acharya also. The devotees of Nityanand Prabhu are unlimited. Devotees of Mahaprabhu, unlimited. Devotees of Advaita Acharya, Tara Lekha Nai. Nobody can count the devotees of Lord Advaita Acharya. Unlimited. Lord is unlimited. The devotees of the Lord are unlimited. And the glories of the devotees are unlimited. Again, Mahaprabhu, again Kaviraj Goswami describes that Mahaprabhu is watering this tree with his own desire and with his own mercy. So now, earlier he was saying that he waters this tree with his desire. Now in the fourth verse, Kaviraj Goswami says, Mahaprabhu is watering this tree with his mercy. Chaitanya Malira Kripa Jalera Sechane Sei Jala Pushta Skanda Bade Dine Dine. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is watering this tree with his own mercy. The waters of his mercy is poured on this tree of devotional service. And only because of this, Sei Jale Pushta Skanda Bade Dine Dine. Being nourished by this water of mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya, this tree is increasing, growing, flourishing day by day. Whatever we are able to do in our Krishna consciousness, it is all happening by the mercy of the Lord. In the Bhagavatam also it comes that when Brahmaji was born from the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu on the lotus flower, he was thinking what to do, who am I, what I am supposed to do. He heard two words, tapa, tapa, and understanding that, oh, this is the Supreme Lord speaking to me. He did tapasya for 1,000 years. And then Lord appeared in front of him. He gave instructions. And then Lord spoke a very, very amazing thing. He said, oh, Brahmaji, it was I who spoke those two words. So you must think, what is big thing, what is amazing in that? What Lord spoke further is really amazing. He says, the faith to accept those words was given by me. The strength to do tapasya was given by me. And the result of this tapasya is also given by me. Everything is given by Krishna. The desire, the strength, convictions, and the result. Everything is given by Krishna. It is Krishna's mercy, that's all. So we should always have this understanding. Whatever we are doing in Krishna consciousness, it is all mercy of the Lord. And we are just the recipients of that mercy. Without mercy, we cannot do anything. Without the mercy of the Lord, we are no one. We are all made up of mercy of the Lord. Therefore, he says, Chaitanya Malira Kripa Jalera Sechane. The mercy of the Lord is watering the tree of devotional service. And then when the tree is watered, then what happens? Says Kandeyat Prema Phala Upajila. Say Krishna Prema Phale Jagata Bharila. The entire tree became full of flowers and fruits. Says Kandhe Yat Prema Phal Upajila. So the fruits of love of God that grew on these branch and sub branches that filled the entire universe, entire world. Say Krishna Prema Phale Jagata Bharila. Entire world became full of the fruits of love of God. because it was Advaita Acharya who brought Krishna in this world as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was calling very loudly, offering obeisances, watering the, uh, you know, uh, doing bathing Abhishek of Shaligram Shila with Ganga Jal and Tulasi. Tulasi Jalamatrena Jalasya Chulukena Va Vikrinate Swamatmanam Bhaktebhyo Bhaktavatsalaha. Advaita Acharya, his mercy is so much that seeing the fallen conditions, situation of the people of Kali Yuga who were absorbed in sense gratification, all the Mayavadis, all the Karmakandis, all the various big pandits, they had no tinge of devotion. So Advaita Acharya, he was thinking, how will they be benefited? How will they be delivered? Only if Krishna comes himself. And my name Advaita will be fulfilled if I bring Krishna in this world. So this branch of Advaita Acharya, because of this branch, the fruit of love of God is distributed everywhere. Sei jalaskand kore shakhate sanchar, phale phule bade shakha haila vistar. So as the trunk and the sub branches are watered, the entire tree branches started spreading very lavishly. Phale phule, and it became full of flowers and the fruits. Who are these flowers? Who are these fruits? The various devotees of the Lord. They are the flowers, they are the fruits, because devotees can give Krishna, devotees implant this fruit of love. They give that prema phal. They are themselves the fruits and the flowers of this tree, and they have the capacity to give love of God to everyone. Krishna say tomar, Krishna dite para, tomar shakati ache. Ami to kangala, Krishna Krishna boli dhai tava pache pache. So all these devotees of the Lord, they spread all over the world and they're distributing this love of God. And then Kaviraj Goswami starts another description of what happened to the followers of Lord of Sri Advaita Acharya. He said, at first, all the followers of Advaita Acharya, they had only one opinion, single opinion, but later, by the will of providence, Daiva Karani, by the will of providence, they developed different opinions. Daivena Karani. So Prabhupada writes that it means by Lord's will. Supreme Lord wanted. Why Lord wants that people develop some other opinions? Lord is so merciful, he allows everyone to use his independent free will. He never ever imposes. He never ever forces anyone to take to this process. So if somebody wants to forget Krishna, okay, Krishna has his avenues open. You want to forget me? Okay, you go there. If you want to love me, okay, please come here. So therefore, by the will of the Lord, the followers of Advaita Acharya, they became two in their opinions. They were divided into two. One set of followers, they strictly followed the instructions given by Advaita Acharya, but the other, they could not follow. They concocted their own theories, and according to their own desires, material desires, they started propagating some wrong philosophy. And they are called as Asara followers. Prabhupada continues. He says that Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he told his disciples that you make GBC after passing away. After he's gone, he told, so after I am gone, please make GBC, Governing Body Commission. Don't appoint one Acharya. But the followers of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, they could not follow the instructions, and they started, fighting over the various properties, and they divided into two different parties. And then the case was going on 40 years. The case was going on, and therefore Prabhupada describes that both of these parties, they didn't follow the instructions. Again, we have to understand, in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada writes so many of the intimate and very, very confidential things which should not be spoken to the common people. But for our understanding, Srila Prabhupada gives all these details. He says, both are us, our followers. But we can see that ISKCON is spreading worldwide the teachings of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Prabhupada writes very important thing. He says, by the mercy of the Guru Parampara, we are able to preach this message of Krishna consciousness all over the world. And he says, according to Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, he has written a commentary on this verse. Entire Bhagavad Gita, he has written commentary. Prabhupada quotes this 2.40. Vyavasayatmika buddhi ekeha kurunandana. So he says, what is Vyavasayatmika buddhi? Chakravarti Thakur writes, Vyavasayatmika buddhi means one should be fixed in following the instructions of spiritual master. Strictly follow the instructions of spiritual master. That is called as Vyavasayatmika buddhi. And we can see in the life of Prabhupada, he strictly followed the instructions of Saraswati Thakur. He was given the instructions at the age of 22 that you preach this. He met in, I think, 1922 at the age of 25, 26. You preach this message of Krishna consciousness to the Western world in the English language, and he was preparing for it throughout the life. He took it very seriously. He took those orders very seriously. So Prabhupada writes, the secret of success in advancement of spiritual life is, what is the secret? One should have firm faith in the instructions of spiritual master. That is the secret. Yasya deve para bhakti yatha deve tatha guru tasyate kathita hirtha prakashante mahatmana. Yasya deve para bhakti tatha deve tatha guru. We should have the same faith in Krishna and the spiritual master. And if we have that faith, then all the imports of the scriptures will be revealed in the heart. And Srila Prabhupada had that faith. Whatever my Guru Maharaj is saying, it will come true. Whatever Acharyas are saying, it will come true. Whatever Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu has predicted, it will come true. Ei rupe nitya age hobe grame grame. Nityananda Prabhu has predicted. He had predicted that this kirtan will happen in every town and village. And Srila Prabhupada had that faith. One time Srila Prabhupada was, as a householder, he was helping in arranging programs, and he would arrange programs on the first floor, and he would stay on the ground floor. And many times his wife would not even allow him to chant. So he would be chanting on the stairs. So one time the program was happening on the first floor, and Abhay Babu was chanting, our Srila Prabhupada was chanting on the stairs. So after the program, Dola Govind Shastri, one of the followers, one of the disciples of Saraswati Thakur, he came out with another person and he was discussing this verse. Bharat Prithvite Achet Nagaradigram Sarvatra Prachar Hoibe Moranam. So I was thinking, he was telling to other person, do you think it is true? Prithvite Achet? Who knows about Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? I think Prithvi means India only. Or I think Prithvi means only Bengal. And Srila Prabhupada, Abhay Babu, he is hearing all this. And then he says, he turns towards them and he says, someday some foolish disciple of Saraswati Thakur will make it happen. And then he turned back. He walked down few stairs. And Dolagun Shastri was thinking, maybe I am that person. Prabhupada turned back again. And he said, and you won't be that. Srila Prabhupada had that faith that whatever our acharyas, whatever Mahaprabhu, Nityananda Prabhu, they have predicted, it has to come true. That is implicit faith. That is unflinching faith. Vyavasayatmika buddhi. That is Vyavasayatmika buddhi. So therefore, Prabhupada is very clearly describing that Sara followers means the devotees who have faith in the instructions of spiritual master. They are Sara followers. And Asara followers, Sar means the real followers. And Asara followers means those who don't have faith in the words of spiritual master, or they concoct some of their own philosophy. So Prabhupada writes that because Krishna consciousness movement is propagated according to this principle of having faith in the words of spiritual master, Prabhupada had that faith. Therefore, he could spread Krishna consciousness all over the world at the age of 70. Who would dare to go to a foreign land with no contacts, without knowing what is going to happen there, with no arrangements for food and accommodation? He had that faith in the words of his spiritual master. Sar followers. Therefore, Prabhupada writes, because we have founded this movement on this principle, our Krishna consciousness movement is spreading so nicely. And he says, although there are so many agnostic demons who are opposing our preaching movement, but still we are increasing our preaching activities. Why and how? Prabhupada writes a very important line, because we are getting all help from previous acharyas. That is the secret. When we are having that faith, and we are not alone, we should have this understanding. We are not alone in the process of Krishna consciousness. Entire Guru Parampara is there behind us, supporting us, giving their blessings. Only thing we have to do is we have to just go ahead with that faith. One time, Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was getting operated for some operation, for some hernia or something in India and in Bombay. So he was being taken to hospital, and Prabhupada came to know. And he was thinking that, oh, he should not get operated in India, he should be operated in West because the facilities are better there. So he wanted to stop the operation, but by the time he reached, the surgery was over. So when he came back to consciousness, Tamal Krishna Maharaj was telling to Prabhupada, Prabhupada, you know, when I went in this operation theater, they gave me anesthesia, and they told me to count from 10 to 1. From 1 to 10, he said, before I could just reach 3, I was knocked off. And as they were operating, I saw a dream. Tamal Krishna Maharaj is telling all this. He says, in the dream, I saw that all our Guru Parampara, they have called you. Saraswati Thakur is there, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is there, Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, all the Acharyas Parampara is there. And they have called you and they are asking for the report. What is the report of preaching? You know, just like every Brahmotsav, we offer our annual report to Radha Gopinath. So they were asking for the report. What is going on? So Srila Prabhupada was telling to all the Guru Parampara that the people of Kali Yuga, they have less age, no intelligence, very less faith, very short-lived, no good habits. But all these people who have come to me, they have one qualification. They are sincere in following my instructions. That is the only qualification which they have. And then Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he came out of consciousness. So he asked Prabhupada, Prabhupada, is it true? So Prabhupada said, yes, that is actually the case. They had no qualification. And then Prabhupada said one more thing. He said, the only qualification is they have taken shelter of my feet. They do whatever I am saying. That is their qualification. And that is their hope. So therefore, when we follow the words of spiritual master, when we develop that faith, that whatever is there in scripture, that is right. Just by simply chanting the names of the Lord, will be liberated. Just by associating with devotees, will advance. That is the faith. So that they are called as Sara followers, the real followers. And then Prabhupada Kaviraj Goswami continues that some of the disciples of Advaita Acharya strictly followed the instructions of Advaita Acharya, and others, they became independent. They started concocting their own ideas. So those who follow the instructions, they are useful followers. And those who don't follow the instructions, those who concoct their own ideas, they are called useless followers. And they are completely deluded by Lord's Daivi Maya. So anyone who doesn't follow the instructions of spiritual master, he is deluded by Daivi Maya. Acharyera mat sei mat sar, tar agya langhi chale seita asar. So who is a sar follower? Anybody who follows the instructions of Advaita Acharya or spiritual master. He's a sar follower. And anyone, tar agya langhi, anyone who doesn't follow, he is a sar follower. Prabhupada writes, here is the opinion of Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami. Persons who strictly follows the orders of spiritual master, they are useful in executing the will of the Lord. And those who don't follow, they are useless. Asar. So if we want to be useful in the mission of the Lord, then we should develop that faith. Whatever faith we have, work on that basis and then increase our faith. All of us, we have began this process with little bit of faith, Adav Shraddha. And based on that faith, we started associating with devotees. And then by serving devotees, by chanting, we get more faith. So it is a continuous process. So therefore, then Kaviraj Goswami speaks on the very, very important instruction for each and every devotee. He says there is no use taking the names of all those you are useless. Because, there is no benefit we'll get. He said, I have just mentioned to distinguish them. I don't want to take the names of devotees, names of people who are useless followers. See, that is a perfect Vaishnava behavior which Kaviraj Goswami is exhibiting here. There is no use taking the names of those who criticize. And actually, we should not criticize those who are not following the instructions. One time, there was one devotee, Yashodanandan Maharaj. This is, in the last years of Srila Prabhupada, 1977, 20th May 1977. Tamal Krishna Goswami Maharaj writes about this in his diary. So Prabhupada was in Mayapur, I think, and this Yashodananda Maharaj, the news came that he was very strongly criticizing the false gurus, because there were many false gurus, and he had done he had just presented the facts that this person is doing this person is doing that, this is all bogus. But when Prabhupada came to know this, just see the response of Prabhupada. He said, Prabhupada was very displeased and said, what is the use of speaking about false gurus? We should speak about real gurus, spread positive opinions. This criticizing tendency will not attract anyone. We must ourselves be ideal. So whenever Prabhupada was asked, Prabhupada, what do you say about this personality? Prabhupada would never counter a person. He would always ask, what is his philosophy? And he would just counter the philosophy. He would show what is right and what is wrong, what is the false thing in his philosophy. One other time, Prabhupada was, telling, he heard that somebody is criticizing. He said, Prabhupada said, this is not a good idea. I think it is not a good idea. You should go positively forward without attacking anyone else. We should not attack anyone else for their wrong propaganda, for their wrong behavior. We should ourselves be ideal. He said two reasons why we should not do this. He said, first, if we criticize those who are false, we will create enemies. And second, interesting thing, he says, actually, we are giving importance to that person. By speaking about somebody, he will get more importance. Oh, ISKCON Guru is speaking like this about this person. He must be something. So therefore, he says, we may criticize, and then he spoke the third thing. He said, we may criticize with our mouth if needed, but we should never do it in writing. That's the third thing. First, he said, we'll create enemies if we criticize. Second, the person will get more importance. And third, he said, we should, if needed, we can speak, but we should never ever do it in writing. So these are the principles Kaviraj Goswami is speaking here, and Prabhupada is showing by his own example. He never ever did something in writing. He just, taught devotees. He just instructed devotees what is right, what is wrong, because that is the duty of an acharya, to make his disciples aware of what is right thing happening in the society, what is wrong thing, so that we are aware. And then Kaviraj Goswami continues. When the paddy is mixed with straw, then we must fan it. We must fan the paddy to separate all the straw particles. Similarly, Srila Prabhupada talks about various disciples of Saraswati Thakur. Again, a very, very sensitive issue Prabhupada is discussing in these purports. We should not discuss about these issues in the public forum, but we should be aware of what is the history of ISKCON and what happened in the Gaudiya mission. Prabhupada writes that, there were some disciples of Saraswati Thakur who went to West not to preach, but to get name, fame. And that's why they could not make much change, because they didn't go with the desire to preach. They went with the desire to get name, fame, prestige, so that when they come back, they can, spread their influence and they can make more donations, funds, collect more funds, and so that they can live more comfortably. So again, Prabhupada is describing a very, very sensitive thing here. So therefore, Prabhupada writes, as one fans paddy to separate it from the straw, similarly, we have to understand the SAR followers and ASAR followers. What is a paddy and what is a straw? We have to use the fan of the philosophical conclusions given by Kaviraj Goswami. Who is a Sara? Who is a real follower? Anybody who follows the instructions of spiritual masters, anybody who is presenting the parampara as it is, he is a real follower. Anybody who is preaching, he is a real follower. Anybody who is not preaching, not presenting the parampara or concocting the ideas, he is a false follower. So that is a useless follower, And then Kaviraj Goswami starts describing the various branches of Advaita Acharya, various expansions. So the first branch, the biggest branch of Advaita Acharya is, sub-branch of Advaita Acharya is Achyutananda. So Achyutananda was the eldest son of Advaitacharya, and from the beginning of his life, he was just engaged in service of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He was completely attached. Even as a small boy, he was serving Lord Sri Chaitanya. One time, Achyutananda, he heard from his father, Advaitacharya was saying once that Keshav Bharati is the spiritual master of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And it was a fact because he gave him sannyas diksha. But Achyutananda, he was just 5 years old boy that time. But just see the understanding and attachment of Achyutananda to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He became very unhappy. And he told his father, "Oh father, your instruction that Keshav Bharati is the spiritual master of Lord Sri Chaitanya, this will spoil entire country." You know, so very amazing. Small boy speaking such strongly. He said, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the spiritual master of the whole world. And you are saying that Keshav Bharati is the spiritual master of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Oh, this is not possible. This is not supported by Vedic literatures. So when small child speaks something, anything he speaks, it is attractive. What to speak of when the child speaks philosophy? Now and then we keep seeing so many videos. There are so many videos getting circulated how small children, they are speaking philosophy, they are singing bhajans, and they are memorizing verses, they are speaking verses, and it is viral. When a child speaks something, anything he speaks is attractive. But when child speaks philosophy, it is more attractive. Then people hear. That's why in the seventh canto, when Hiranyaksha was killed by Varahadev, then Hiranyakashipu comes and he tries to, you know, appease and give solace to his mother and the wife of Hiranyaksha. And he tells that there was a king of Ushinara, and once he was killed in the battle, and all the wives were were really sad, and they were crying, beating their chests. Yamraj came as a small boy and he started speaking philosophy. That's how these wives were convinced. So when Achyutananda, he spoke such wonderful philosophy, Advaitacharya, he was very, very satisfied. Seeing the faith this Achyutananda had in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was really satisfied. And Prabhupada writes about the history of Advaitacharya's dynasty. He said Advaitacharya, he had 3 sons uh, who were devotees of Lord Chaitanya, and 3 other sons, they became Mayavadis. So the 3 sons who became devotees of Advaita, Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu were Achyutananda, Krishna Mishra, and Gopal Das. They were all born from Sita Devi, wife of Advaitacharya, and he had 3 more sons. Their name were Balaram, Swarup, and Jagdish. Somehow they became Mayavadis. They gave up the lotus feet of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and they started following Mayavad philosophy. Out of these 6 sons of Advaitacharya, Achyutananda was the eldest. And Kaviraj Goswami and Srila Prabhupada, he writes in detail. In purport, he quotes so many instances that when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he met Advaitacharya in various occasions, Achyutananda was a small boy, and that's how he was attached to Mahaprabhu as a small boy. He would serve him, he would be with him. When Mahaprabhu would do kirtan, Achyutananda would dance very nicely. So many details Prabhupada gives in the purports. And then Kaviraj Goswami continues that Krishna Mishra, another son of Advaitacharya, Mahaprabhu was always in his heart. He was such a great devotee. And Prabhupada in this 18th verse purport, he describes that Achyutananda, he didn't marry. So he had no children. And the second son of Advaitacharya, Krishna Mishra, he had two sons, Raghunath and Dola Govinda. And then Prabhupada describes the dynasty of Krishna Mishra. The lots of details, So few details he says is Dola Govinda. So Krishna Mishra had two sons, Raghunath Chakravarti and Dola Govinda. Dola Govinda, he had three sons, Chand, Kandarpa and Gopinath. Then Gopinath had three sons, Sri Vallabha, Prana Vallabha and Keshav. And then Prabhupada describes the genealogical line of Krishnadas, Krishna Mishra. Then he describes about the third son, Sri Gopal. So Sri Gopal, he was another third son. And all these three sons, they were amazing. They were all very wonderful. They were such great devotees of Lord Sri Chaitanya. Kaviraj Goswami writes that whenever Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, they would dance, they would chant this Hare Krishna mantra, all of them, they would develop ecstatic symptoms. They would be singing and dancing, hearing the chanting of Lord Nityananda and Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They would be extremely happy. And when Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, they would sing, Gopal, he would dance so much that while dancing, he would faint and fall on the ground unconscious. That was Gopal. So once it so happened that Gopal, he fainted, and Advaitacharya, he became very unhappy because he was trying to, revive him back. He took the child on his lap and he was trying everything. He was chanting nursing mantra for protection of Gopal, but Gopal was not coming back to consciousness. Seeing this, Advaitacharya became so very sad, and all the devotees, they also started lamenting, seeing how the child is not coming back to consciousness. They were really trying to pacify Advaitacharya. As all this is happening, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came and he just placed his hand on the chest of Gopal and he said, "Oh dear Gopal, my boy, please get up and chant the names of Lord." Just by being touched by the hands of Sri Chaitanya, and when the small boy Gopal heard the sound from the lotus mouth of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came back to consciousness and he started dancing again. And seeing this, all the devotees, they were so very happy. So that's how all these three sons of Advaitacharya, they were great devotees, Achyutananda, Krishna Mishra, and Sri Gopal. The other three sons, Balaram, Swarup, and Jagadisha, they somehow became Mayavadi followers, and that's why they are rejected by Vaishnava society. Prabhupada describes some of the details about them also. Balaram, he had 3 wives and 9 sons. The youngest son of the first wife, his name was Madhusudan Goswami. And this Madhusudan Goswami, he took the title Bhattacharya. And he started propagating this Mayavad philosophy. Then this Goswami Bhattacharya, he had a son, and his name was Radha Raman Goswami Bhattacharya. But although his father, he had taken a title Goswami, but this Radha Raman Goswami Bhattacharya, he refused to take this Goswami title because Prabhupada writes that generally a Goswami title is given to a renunciant. It is not given to a householder. So therefore, Radha Raman Goswami Bhattacharya, he refused to accept this Goswami title. And then Prabhupada writes that in ISKCON movement, we have never given Goswami title to any householder devotee. But all these caste Goswamis, they think that this Goswami title is a hereditary title. And Prabhupada writes about this in Nectar of Instruction also, that this is not a hereditary title. Who is a Goswami? A person who can control his senses. And typically, a renunciant is given this title as Goswami. Prabhupada writes that in our ISKCON movement, although we have given sannyas to young disciples, young people who were just in their 20s, Prabhupada gave them sannyas. But then Prabhupada writes that because they are completely dedicated to preaching the message of Krishna consciousness, they are right people to be given this title, Goswami. That's how Prabhupada describes. And then he describes about the fourth branch of Advaita Acharya. The first three branches are Achyutananda, Krishna Mishra, and Gopal Das. And the fourth branch is not the direct son, but a trusted disciple and servant of Advaita Acharya, and his name is Kamalakant Vishwas. Very confidential servant. He knew everything about Advaita Acharya. Very intimate to Advaita Acharya. And Srila Prabhupada describes the detail about Kamalakanta Mishra. He says Kamalakanta Vishwas. He says this Kamalakanta, he was born in a Brahmana family and he was engaged in service of Advaita Acharya in his house. And when the famous personality Paramananda Puri, he moved from Navadvip to Jagannath Puri along with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. After he took sannyas, Mahaprabhu Paramananda Puri, he also moved to Jagannath Puri along with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So he took this Kamalakant Vishwas along with him, and he moved along with Kamalakant Vishwas to Jagannath Puri. So when Kamalakant Vishwas was in Jagannath Puri, one time he sent a note through someone to the king of Odisha, that time Pratap Rudra Maharaj. But somehow this letter reached the hands of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nobody else knew about it, but somehow the letter reached the hands of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And in that note, this Kamalakant Vishwas, what he had written? In that letter, he had established that Advaita Acharya is Supreme Personality of Godhead himself, which was the fact. He's Mahavishnu. But this Kamalakant, he had also written one more thing. He said, actually, Advaita Acharya, he has recently incurred a debt of 300 rupees that time. And he said, Kamalakant, being the servant of Advaita Acharya, he was trying to liquidate this debt of Advaita Acharya. So when Mahaprabhu read this, he acknowledged the fact that yes, he's saying Advaita Acharya is Supreme Lord, that is the fact, that is true. But how can he say that Advaita Acharya is in debt of 300 rupees? This is not right. You are telling that Supreme Lord has become a debtor. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was not so happy. And he said that Mahaprabhu said that he has made the incarnation of Supreme Lord a poverty-stricken beggar. This is not the right way. I shall punish him for doing this. Prabhupada writes, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he never accepted anyone who foolishly, claims some unauthorized ideas. And he tells that there are some people who say that Daridra Narayan, there's something called as Daridra Narayan. All these poor people, they are also Narayan. They are also God themselves. That is Mayavad. How can Supreme Lord, who is Akhil Koti Brahmanda Nayak, how can he be beggar? That is not possible. So therefore, Mahaprabhu said, today I'll punish him. From today onwards, do not allow that Bauliya Kamalakanta Vishwas to come here. So that was the instruction. That was the punishment. So when Kamalakant heard this, he became very unhappy. But when Advaitacharya heard this, he became really pleased. Why? He said, because he was thinking that Mahaprabhu, he went to Kamalakant Vishwas, Advaitacharya, because he saw that Kamalakant is so very displeased, unhappy. He'll not be able to see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Advaitacharya, he went to Kamalakant, he said, "Oh Kamalakant Vishwas, you are so fortunate. You have received the mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Lord never chastises me like this. You have received special mercy of Lord Sri Chaitanya. You are so very fortunate." And then Advaitacharya says, Lord was giving me so much of respect in the past, and I wanted to be servant of Lord Sri Chaitanya. We discussed about the Abhiman of being servant of Lord. Krishna Das Abhimane Ananda Sindhu. Brahma, Shiva, Sheshiyar, Nahi Pai Bindu. So Advaitacharya, he was given all the respect by Mahaprabhu, because Mahaprabhu and Advaitacharya, there is a 50 years of gap. He is around 53 years older, Advaitacharya. He's 53 years older than Mahaprabhu. So, and Advaitacharya is like the spiritual master. He's a godbrother of his spiritual master. Ishwara Puri and Advaitacharya, they are both initiated by Madhavendra Puri. So he was thinking that he is like my spiritual master. So how can I take service from him? But Advaitacharya wanted to be servant. So he planned something. So Advaitacharya is telling all this to Kamalakanta Vishwas, that I expounded this Yoga Vashishta philosophy, and I explained Bhagavatam from Mayavad point of view. And Mahaprabhu, we have heard this story many times, how Mahaprabhu became very angry and he came running to this place and he started kicking Advaitacharya with his feet. And Sita Thakurani, she became so afraid. She was pleading, please don't beat him. He's an old man, he'll die. And Advaitacharya was very happy. Today, my Lord, you have accepted me as your servant. Now my mission is successful. And then Mahaprabhu understood that he has tricked me. So Advaitacharya is telling Kamalakant, oh, I did so much to be recognized as servant of the Lord, to receive his mercy, and Mahaprabhu is giving his mercy to you automatically. You are so very fortunate. That's how Advaitacharya pacified Kamalakant Vishwas. And then he went to Mahaprabhu and he spoke something. So that we'll be discussing next time. We'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Anybody has any questions? Okay, there are no questions, so we'll stop here. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Shri Prabhupada ki jai. Grantharaj Shri Chaitanya Caritāmrta ki jai. Shri Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami ki jai.
Thank you, Prabhu.